Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 97 Republic YouTube channel, where I react to UFC news, live events, basically just anything related to the UFC. So I kindly ask that if you enjoy the video, a friendly reminder to click the like button. If you want to become a part of this channel, feel free to click the subscribe button. And if you don't want to miss out on anything, you want to stay up to date, feel free to click the notification bell. All of this really contributes to the growth of this channel. I would really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy this one. Main card predictions for UFC Fight Night: Emmett versus Lerone Murphy, starting right now. Starting off the main card in the middleweight division with a debutant. Yeah, it's tough. You know what they say, pressure's a choice. Tavares Finney taking on Robert Valentin. And with regards to Tavares Finney making his debut inside the UFC, Valentin has had one fight inside the UFC, lost it. Tavares Finney is the only man ever to have 3 Dana White Contender Series appearances, and he won all 3. Guy's predominantly a wrestler, and he is as wide as he is tall. The guy is built like a bridge and utilizes wrestling to advance position, to basically capitalize on position and to look for a finish. A really impressive wrestler. Doesn't have the best striking, doesn't need it, with Robert Valentin being predominantly a striker, even though with that being said, he does have good scrambles. However, going with the debutant, going with Tavares Finney, I do think he gets Robert Valentin to the ground. Now Valentin is somewhat of a submission threat from his back. However, I think Finney would get through that and win via ground and pound. I'm going with a second round TKO win for Tavares Finney in his UFC debut. It's going to be insane. Then heading on to the second fight, also within the middleweight division, we have two somewhat stalwarts of the UFC with Brad Tavares, Gerald Meerschaert. And when looking at their records, we have a combined 47 fights within the UFC. That is a lot. It feels like Gerald Meerschaert and Brad Tavares has been within the UFC since 1858. It feels like on the 5th day, both of them were there. That's what it feels like. And with regards to their respective UFC careers, both men has lost 10 fights within the UFC. The difference is Tavares has ended up winning 15 fights within the UFC. Meerschaert ended up winning 12 fights within the UFC. So very close to one another with regards to experience. With regards to how they stylistically match up against one another, it's the classical tale of striker versus grappler. Gerald Meerschaert wants to get you on the ground, wants to improve position, wants to submit you. Where Brad Tavares just wants to stand and trade shots for the entire duration of the fight and sees who drops first. And usually, Brad didn't drop first. An exceptionally durable man. However, lately, it's been rather the opposite. However, with that being said, do not think that Gerald Meerschaert has the power to be able to knock out Brad Tavares. And with that being said, Brad Tavares has never been submitted in his life. Everything points to Brad Tavares in this fight. That is why I'm picking Brad Tavares to win this fight. And actually, I think he's able to stop Gerald Meerschaert. However, I think it's going to be a TKO. It's not going to be a knockout. I think in the 3rd round, both men being somewhat fatigued, and Brad Tavares just lays it on. Gerald Meerschaert too tired to defend himself. Referee stops it. I'm picking Brad Tavares to win this fight, 3rd round. Then heading on to the next fight in the heavyweight division with Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Martin Buday. Now with regards to both men's respective careers within the UFC, Kennedy is 8-5, Martin Buday is 5-1. You'd think the advantage is Martin Buday. However, I'm here to tell you I don't think that's the case. Kennedy recently moved to heavyweight, where he transitioned from being a light heavyweight to a heavyweight, fought Chris Barnett at heavyweight and fought Lucas Brzezinski at heavyweight, and looked really impressive. A technical striker, doesn't throw a lot of volume, has power, has really good straight shots, uses a teep, which not a lot of heavyweights use, a teep kick, and it serves him well. He looks really good. Won't see a lot of technical strikers within the heavyweight division of the UFC, and Kennedy looks really good. Martin Buday, in his last performance against Andrei Arlovski, was not impressed. Honestly, was not impressed due to the fact that he is much younger, a bigger guy, and didn't look convincing at all. Doesn't really stand on a lot of his shots. He does enjoy the clinch and he does good work from the clinch. However, it doesn't really feel like a threat, whether it's on the feet or whenever he clinches his opponent against the cage. I just feel like the upper hand is with Kennedy, and honestly, I feel comfortable saying I think Kennedy wins this fight. Now, how he wins this fight, I'm not sure. It is a heavyweight fight, so I don't see it going the distance. Probably gonna say Kennedy. Nzechukwu wins. I'm gonna say second round knockout. Honestly, I just feel like his striking is too technical. He is really a fast striker as well. Has good punches, has good kicks. Martin Buday, especially when he strikes, feels like he's vulnerable. Lunges in, has his hands down with a lot of striking exchanges. He keeps his hands low, which I don't really think it's a sustainable thing to do at heavyweight. And Kennedy is on a roll, recently transitioning to heavyweight. He looks really good, looks really fast. I think Kennedy gets it done. Then heading into the bantamweight division, where we have Cortavius Romious versus Chang Ho Lee. Now, Cortavius is 0-1 inside of the UFC, and Chang Ho Lee is 1-0 inside of the UFC. Cortavius is a wrestler. He wants to wrestle, has a lot of power. He is a big guy for bantamweight, an extremely muscular guy for bantamweight, and has good wrestling, has a lot of power. With regards to striking, not the most refined striker you will see in your life. He has good kicks, but you can see that he's not very technical. He does like to brawl and is susceptible to engaging in a brawl, and it has been somewhat of his downfall, especially in Dana White's Contender Series, especially in his first fight. So interesting to see whether he'll be able to mature to just keep it clean, stay somewhat technical, stay composed, and basically just fight his fight. And with regards to Chang Ho Lee, he is definitely is a better striker, but personifies volume. And even he said that he wants to be like the new Merab Dvalishvili, just constantly pressuring his opponent. And you could see it in his debut inside of the UFC, where he just constantly pressured his opponents. Now, at some times it's to his own detriment, but he is somewhat of a good striker, has good footwork, throws good punches, lands his kicks. He is exceptionally good in the clinch, where his strikes in the clinch is devastating, especially his knees. However, with this being said, I'm gonna pick Cortavius to win the fight. I do think Cortavius gets it done. I do think that his wrestling is really good. He could have won his UFC debut had he been a little bit smarter and just calmed himself down more, where he was very frantic, and I think that just basically helped his opponent to get the victory over Cortavius. I do think in this fight he will basically just wrestle Chang Ho Lee, and even though Chang Ho, whenever he gets wrestled, he tends to stand up quite easily, I don't think the same will apply to Cortavius. He is really strong, and with the experience that he gained, I think he'll be able to hold him down. However, I think Cortavius wins unanimous decision victory. I think this fight goes all the way, 3 rounds. Cortavius wins via unanimous decision. Then heading into the co-main event of this fight night, in the featherweight division, Pat Sabatini versus Joe Anderson Brito. Pat Sabatini is 6-2 inside of the UFC. Joe Anderson Brito is 5-2 inside of the UFC. And honestly, it should have been 6-1. Let's all be honest. In Joe Anderson Brito's fight against William Gomez, no way Gomez won that fight. The only reason he did, well, Gomez is French, and guess what? The fight was in France. Joe Anderson Brito won that fight according to myself. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that fight. Pat Sabatini is a grappler and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist, where the sole purpose, his whole way of fighting, is to get his opponent on the ground and basically just submit them, where his strikes are used to set up his wrestling. Whenever he gets his opponents to the ground, uses his grappling to basically just improve his position. He'll use ground and pound, everything with the purpose in mind of submitting his opponent. Where Joe Anderson Brito is basically, I'd say, a striker that is really good overall. With regards to his clinch, with regards to his wrestling defense, with regards to his wrestling offense, his striking, he is a very, very good all-rounded fighter. Has good punches, good jabs, utilizes his jab, has a snappy jab, and also his leg kicks. His leg kicks, devastating. We've all seen a fight get stopped due to a leg kick. You've never seen a fight get stopped due to a leg kick where the leg kick basically, it took a chunk out of Jack Shaw's shin. It was nasty. He has ungodly leg kicks, does Brito. And honestly, with regards to this fight, I'm picking Joe Anderson Brito to win this fight. I do think that he'd be able to avoid Pat Sabatini's wrestling. I do think that with regards to the clinch, Brito is better, and with regards to striking, Brito is miles ahead of Pat Sabatini. Even though initially I thought I was going to go Pat Sabatini, just watching everything again, Brito wins this fight. I think he wins this fight by a unanimous decision. I just think he dominates. I don't think Pat gets his way, and I think with regards to striking, Brito might piece him up. With regards to striking, Joe Anderson Brito is levels ahead of Pat Sabatini. Then moving on to the main event, the fight that there are a lot of anticipation surrounding this fight. Josh Emmett versus Lerone Murphy, featherweight division. Both men being experienced within the UFC, with the advantage obviously goes to Josh Emmett due to the fact that he is more experienced than Lerone Murphy, and it should come as no surprise that he has also fought better opponents. And he's faced Ilia Topuria, he has fought Yair Rodriguez, Calvin Kattar, back in the day Jeremy Stevens, who was a devastating opponent. Even Shane Burgos was really nasty back in the day. So Josh Emmett has fought better opposition. But this fight epitomizes power versus precision, where Josh Emmett is basically the storm and Lerone Murphy is somewhat zen, if we could call it that. Josh Emmett is a synonym for power, especially within the featherweight division, where we have rarely seen anyone be as devastating of a knockout artist as Josh Emmett, where if ever he hits you flush, he could send you away. And Lerone Murphy somewhat epitomizes what an overall good fighter is, where he is really well-rounded. Wherever the fight takes place, he'll feel comfortable at that point. Whether it is striking, he'll be comfortable. Whether it is grappling, whether it is wrestling, he'll feel comfortable. And even though I gave it some thought, I thought, Josh Emmett, I think he catches Lerone Murphy, and Lerone has been susceptible to eating some punches, especially when he fought Dan Ige, actually got dropped. If the same happens to Josh Emmett, I don't think you recover, and I think it's over. However, with that being said, not only is Lerone Murphy undefeated, Father Time is also undefeated. Josh Emmett is 40 years old, and even though I'll be rooting for Josh Emmett just due to the fact that I'm a massive fan, I think Lerone Murphy gets it done. I think Lerone Murphy gets it done, and I'm gonna say via submission. I think at some point Josh is gonna tire. I think it's gonna transition into a somewhat grappling contest. It's gonna have a grappling exchange. I think Lerone gets him down, and I think in some way he submits him. That is my verdict. Even though I'm gonna root for Josh Emmett, I think Lerone Murphy gets it done. I think Lerone Murphy stays undefeated, and that's basically my predictions for UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Lerone Murphy. Let me know in the comment section, where do you disagree, and what fight do you think is gonna be fight of the night? I would really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, just a reminder to click like, click subscribe. I would really appreciate that as well. Have a nice day.